Good afternoon and welcome to the CERIAS Security Seminar. It's my pleasure today to introduce our speaker, Mr. David Wang. David is currently a third-year doctoral student over in the Krannert School of Management in Management Information Systems. Here at Purdue University, where we are today. Before coming to Purdue, David earned his Bachelor of Business Administration and his MBA in Accounting from National Taiwan University. He also worked as an auditor, and he also taught at National Taiwan University in accounting for a number of years. Since coming here to Purdue and the Krannert School, his research has been at the intersection of accounting, information systems, and information security for the most part, with a foray into knowledge management as well. And what he's going to present to you is some current research that he's working on that tries to look at the signals. Companies give off signals all the time. They have annual reports and things like that conveys information to investors. And those investors, when they're buying and trading stocks, they take that information into account, and that has, we think it has some impact on the prices at which the stocks are bought and sold at. So we're really interested in what happens when firms get into trouble with information security. What happens? Do their stocks go way down? Do they stay the same? Could they go up? And David, in his research, has tried to look at that. And he's looked at this and the types of information signals companies provide using some pretty cool and innovative tools. So I don't want to give away the ending. The results are pretty interesting. So I'll let David take it from here.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. I'm glad that I have the chance to present my paper here. And the title of my paper is that the bridging the disclosures with new eyes. So that is, we want to bridging the gap between the disclosures in financial reports and information security incidents. So let us start with this news article from CNN.com. In year 2000, there was a series of denial of service attack. Okay, and Amazon was one of the targets. Okay, as you can see that the denial of service attack tied the Amazon's computer up and prevent almost all the customers from purchasing from Amazon.com. Okay, so based on this news, we asked the following question. Do companies try to tell their investors that the impact of information security incidents, for example, the virus attack or denial of service attack? And the answer is yes. We found out that companies try to release risk factors in their financial reports to their investors so their investors know that the possible impacts of these information security risk factors. Okay, and if the investors have already known these factors, it seems that the impacts of these incidents on the stock price of these companies should be smaller, since the investors have already known everything about the impacts and they have already discounted this kind of impacts. Okay, so in this paper, we're trying to answer the following research questions. The first one is that the disclosures of information security risk factors can mitigate the impact of information security incidents in terms of stock price reactions. And we also want to understand what are the elements within these disclosures that help investors understand the disclosures and understand the impacts and help them to formulate possible expectations about the firm's future performance. We're also interested in that do companies change their disclosure policy before and after experiencing information security incidents. So, in order to approach these research questions, we draw upon the theories in accounting and information security. Okay, the theories in accounting say that managers are willing to disclose a piece of information in their financial reports if that piece of information can help a firm increase their business value. That disclosure is positively correlated with stock prices. Okay, and in particular, Sohail 2006 found that the information security risk factors disclosed in financial reports are positively correlated with stock prices. So we argue that here we have the disclosures in financial reports, or in particular, the information security risk factors. These factors can help investors to form expectations about the future performance or to form expectations about the uncertainty about future cash flow, even after experiencing some kind of information security incidents, such as virus attacks denial of services attacks, or just the hacker breaking into their computers. Okay, and this kind of expectation can help them to lower the stock price reactions. Okay, but how about the impact of information security incidents on stock prices? There are several studies have done this before, but they do not come up with a consensus. Some of them found that there's a negative impact. Some of them do not found such impact. Okay, so this study we try to bridge these two theories. We try to link these two theories together. The first one is that if the disclosures are positively correlated with stock prices, then what happens if the firm is experiencing some kind of information security incidents? So that is, if the disclosures can help investors understand the possible impacts of these incidents, so when the firm is actually experiencing this kind of incidents, the reaction of stock prices should be smaller. Okay, or the business value, the impacts on business value should be smaller. But how can we approach this question? So, in order to approach it, we have the four basic hypotheses. Okay, the first part of this hypothesis, we try to use a cross-sectional analysis to analyze that, and then we're going to use text mining to look into the disclosures or the contents of the disclosures. Okay, so based on the discussion we just had, we observed there are two different types of information security related disclosure in financial reports. The first one is called the disclosure of internal control and procedures, or the internal control reports, which is mandated by Sarbanes-Oxley Act after year 2002. Okay, and the basic idea of this disclosure is to convey or assess the effectiveness of internal control. So the investors will know that whether there's a serious or a major weakness in their information infrastructure. Okay, if the infrastructure is okay, so they can make sure that the output or the information generated from these systems, for example, the financial reports, has a certain level of quality. Okay, that's the purpose of internal control report. And the second one is called the disclosures of information security risk factors. We know that companies disclose a lot of business risk factors in their financial reports. For example, they might facing strong or fierce competition, they might lose their customers, or they have to build up a very good relationship with their suppliers or their distributors. And information security risk factor is one of them. So this factor says that, for example, if they are facing some kind of virus attack, they might lose their confidential data and they might lose their customers. Okay, so the discussion is as follows. If we have these disclosures and these disclosures can help the investors adjust their expectations, so as the number of disclosures goes up, then we should expect that the impact of these incidents on stock prices should be smaller. Okay, that's the first hypothesis. But with this kind of expectation formulation, we have several issues that we haven't solved in this hypothesis one. So in the following hypothesis, we want to focus on the argument of expectation formulation. Okay, for example, here we have the virus attack disclosed in our financial reports. We say that if we are going to face virus attacks, we might lose our customer bases. And then after 1 year, the company really faces some kind of virus attacks. So this is a match between the disclosure and the incidents the company actually experiencing. So we want to understand, is it necessary to be the case that the disclosure are exactly the same with the incidents a company faces to have this kind of mitigation effect? Okay, so we want to understand that the information security risk factors disclosed actually happens. Okay, and this is our hypothesis too. That is, if the disclosures coincide with the incidents a company faces, whether as the number of information security risk factors increases, there's a mitigation effect. Okay, and also, again, we want to focus on this expectation formulation argument. We just look at that whether the disclosure matches the incident. But there's another argument about this kind of expectation formulation. That is, if a company is starting to disclose risk factors about viruses or denial of services starting from year 2002, and it just keep disclosing and disclosing all the way to year 2006. So this kind of information is just like a reminder, and we just repeat it talking about it, right? So in this case, there might not be new expectations because the investors have already known that back to year 2002. So here we try to distinguish the real disclosures with the acknowledgments. That is, whether this is real and new information released to the market, or this is just a reminder. Okay. So for hypothesis 3, we want to focus on if information security risk factors stated in the current year's report have been disclosed or have not been disclosed, and what's the mitigation impact. Okay. And the last hypothesis is that, as we just discussed, we want to get into the details of these disclosures. So we try to extract several key phrases through a content analysis. That is, we read through these risk factors and we try to come up with the key phrases that are the major factors disclosed in these factors. Okay, and we want to see that what are the major factors that can cause this mitigation effect. Okay, as a first step into our clustering analysis of the text mining part. Okay, questions so far? Okay, so in order to really approach our hypothesis, we take the following steps. First, we need to collect or identify the information security incidents, right? So we search 12 different keywords, such as virus, worm, computer breaking, or identity theft. Okay, we search for 12 different keywords from year 1996 to 2006. Okay, and we search these keywords on the major media, such as the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, USA Today, and also on CNET and ZDNet. Okay, by searching these keywords, we are able to identify the news that talking about the breach announcements. Okay, so after identifying these news, we should be able to get a list of the breached companies. Okay, and when we collect this data, we clean the data as the following. Of course, first, we must have a specific date. Okay, that is, for example, some news we read through, we found the following. Said that last year a company was attacked by virus twice. Okay, so in that case, we don't know exactly what happens in that case. So we're unable to identify the stock price reaction to that incident. Okay, so the effect must be clear and stated in a very clear way. Okay, and the second one is that we need to tease out all the confounding effects. That is, if there's an earnings announcement, a merge acquisition, or stock split, we know that there should be some kind of stock price reaction to those information, right? So in that case, we are not able to capture the stock price reaction specifically to our information security incidents. So in that case, we tease out all the confounding effects. Okay, and the third question is that we're not sure whether this effect is a prevailing effect or specifically limited to the breach company. So we get a list of the control group. That is, this control group, we do not encounter any breach announcement from the media. Okay, so as a control group, we are able to find out that whether this mitigation effect is specifically to the breach company. So how can we get this list of control group? We search on Yahoo Finance and we search on Hoover's database to get a list of competitors. Okay, and based on these competitors, we are able to match it to the breach companies. If we have several alternatives, we just pick the one with the similar market capitalization. Okay, so here we have our samples, and the next step is that we need to collect the disclosures in financial reports. And this is how it looks like. Okay, and this is the disclosure of financial reports in Amazon's annual report for year 2000. Okay, as you can see that this is from the control report. And there are three parts in the control report. One is how the company managed their internal control and procedures. And the second one is that how do they evaluate their internal control and procedures. And the third one is that whether there's any change in their control and procedures. And this one is the evaluation part. And we see that the companies has evaluated the effectiveness of the company's disclosures, controls, and procedures. Okay, and they found out that the company's disclosure, control, and procedures are effective in recording, processing, summarizing, and reporting on a timely basis information required to be disclosed under the Exchange Act. Okay, so we see that there's no major flaw in their internal control and procedures. So we can argue that maybe it's effective and there's no major weakness in their information infrastructure. Okay, another example is about the risk factors disclosed in their financial reports. And this one is also disclosed in Amazon's reports. And it says that, for example, they experience system interruptions and their computer and communication systems and operations could be damaged or interrupted by breaking, computer viruses, physical or electronic break-ins, and similar disruptions. And all these disruptions could cause system interruptions, delays, or losses of critical data and could prevent them from providing services and accepting fulfilling orders. Okay, and it could also damage their reputations. Okay, so based on this example, you know that if the companies disclose this kind of risk factors, the investors know that, okay, Amazon's system might encounter some kind of interruption, right? And this kind of interruption might be caused by, say, computer viruses, physical or electronic break-ins, and similar disruptions. And this kind of disruption can cause what kind of effect is that the impact should be maybe they cannot provide their services, they cannot fulfilling their orders, or they might suffer some reputation damage. Okay, so this kind of disclosure content can help investors understand what's going on with these risk factors. Okay, and here are the descriptive statistics of our disclosures. So the average number, as you can see, for the experimental group or the bridge companies, that increases after year 2002 just because the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. Okay, because it's mandated to have this kind of disclosures. And the average number of risk factors disclosed also increases on average. Okay. So how can we measure the stock price reactions to these information security factors? We use the market model to evaluate, okay, or the event study approach. So the idea of the market model is as follows. The RIT here is the stock return for company I at time t. So what is the return? The return is just the price changing from time t to time t plus 1, right? So it's just a price change. And the market return, the RMT here, is also a price change, but it's aggregately from the index level. Okay, so RMT here stands for the average stock price change in American Stock Exchange, in NASDAQ, and NYSE, the New York Stock Exchange. Okay, so the idea of this market model is as follows. We try to get the average or the normal relationship between a company's stock price change with the market. Okay, so for example, when the market index increases 10 points, we should expect there's a 1% change in our stock price return. Okay, so that's on average. So if we can get this on average thing, when there's an event comes out, and we know that the company's stock price might change or in response to that event. So we can measure that what's the difference between that stock price change with the normal situation. Okay, and that is called the abnormal return. The abnormal return is try to capture the stock price reaction that cannot be captured by the market reaction. Okay, so if we can get that part, that means that event, for example, the information security incident, has some kind of impact on the stock prices. Okay, and then we need to accumulate it across the window or the period we want to study. And here, the information breach announced date by the media is called the day 0. Okay, and generally for event study, we want to capture the reaction of stock prices from day -1 to day 0 or day +1. Okay, we want to go back one day before is that there might be some information leakage. That is, the press might know this information one day before they actually announce it. Okay, or actually maybe the company has already disclosed it to the public just one day before the media has already disclosed to the public. Okay, and sometimes we also want to consider that one day after the breach announcement, just because sometimes the news comes up maybe late in the afternoon, say at 3 o'clock, but the market closed at 4. So the actual reaction we will expect, that will be the next day after the announcement. Okay, so we need to accumulate the stock price reaction across this period. That's one day before the announcement and the announcement date, and maybe one day after the announcement date. Okay, and this study, we only look at the 2-day window. That is the one day before that and the announcement date. Okay, and the result is similar for the 3-day window. That's including the one day after the announcement. Again, this is our model. Okay, and here the model we have an intercept, and here the D industry means that we set the dummy for the industry, because we suspect that the impact of this kind of information security incidents is more serious for, say, Amazon.com, Yahoo, or Google, right? Because they rely on this kind of information and online transactions. So we have a special industry group for those companies. And we also control for the size here. Okay, this is because if the firm is larger, the larger the firm might have more capability to endure the shock from these incidents, or they might be more capable of handling this kind of incidents. So we also control for the size. Okay, and this one, as we just mentioned, that the internal control report had 3 elements. One is called evaluation. That's this one. And also the management of internal controls and whether there's any change in internal control. Okay, so we actually code that whether there's any disclosures of this kind of information. Okay, and here the next part is the number of elements in internal controls. For example, there should be 3, right? That's the maximum. And we actually count for each of the breach companies, say that if the company only has the evaluation part, so the number of elements in internal control report should be 1. Okay, or the company has both of these 3 elements. And we also count the number of security risks. Okay, and how can we count it? Okay, we count it as the following. As you can see that this risk factors is about system interruption and the lack of integration and redundancy in their system. Okay, and that's the consequences. That's the sales effect. So we actually count this whole thing as 1 risk factor. Okay, so this is 1. That's the number of this information security risk factors disclosed, and this is 1. And if the companies has several, then we can just keep counting. And we also control for the total number of business risk factors. For example, we face severe competition. Someone is actually trying to merge our company, right? Or we might lose customers. Okay, so as you can see that here, the internal control report elements are not significant, but the impact of this number of security risk factors are negatively correlated with the cumulative abnormal return. Okay, that means that if the cumulative abnormal return has always, if it has negative impact, the reactions based on these disclosures can lower the prices of those impacts, okay, or to lower the prices of the stock price reactions to the information incidents. And we also need to check if we take out the risk factors and see what we have. Again, the result is similar, so we can find out that there's no interaction effect between the internal control disclosure and the risk factor disclosures. Okay, and the result is similar here. We can find out that this one, okay, the number of security risk factors disclosed in financial reports is negatively correlated with stock price reactions. Okay, so that means this partially supports our hypothesis that as the number of the disclosures increases, the mitigation effect exists. Okay, and do you remember that we also want to look at whether this mitigation effect only exists when the disclosures matches the incidents, or whether it only exists when it's a first-time disclosures. Okay, so here we still have the dummy variable for the industry, and we have the size. Okay, and here we actually count whether there's the number of matched security disclosures. For example, a company might disclose 3 different risk factors. The first one is about virus, the second one is about denial of service attacks, and the third one is about the losing of confidential data. Okay, so if the company actually faces a virus attack, so we count 1 here. Okay, that's the number of matched information security risk factors. Okay, and we also consider that the level of match, or the frequency of the match, the percentage of this match. That means in the case I just mentioned that we have 1 match but 2 unmatched. Okay, so this case we have a 33% match. Okay, for this variable. Okay, and we'll also look at whether this is first-time disclosed information or it's repeated disclosed information. As you can see that, again, this kind of risk factors can mitigate the impact or lower the surprises of this incidents. Okay, and if it's matched, okay, it still can lower the impact of these incidents, and the impact, the magnitude is even larger than this one. Okay, questions so far? Yes.
How do you isolate the impact of the reaction with respect to a specific incident that happened? Do you have any special procedure that you isolated to say this was specifically due to that aspect of that?
So you are asking how can we make sure that the stock price is specifically react to the incident?
How do you isolate the effect on the stock price? You say abnormal reaction. How do you isolate the specific, that it is specifically due to that fact?
Okay, so to the best of the things that we can do is that we try to tease out all possible confounding effect. Okay, for example, if there's an earnings announcement around that breach, we just get rid of that sample. Okay, or for example, there's a merger and acquisition, or there's a CEO change, CFO change, or there's any other possible reasons that might cause the stock price react to that information disclosure, we take out all the samples out from our sample. So that's the best we can do to make sure that the stock price reaction is maybe slowly react to the information security incidents. Okay, any questions? No? Okay. So we found out that for hypothesis 1, it's only partially supported, but for hypothesis 2 and 3, here's what we found. We found out that if there's a match and if it's first-time disclosure, we can find out there's the disclosures of information security risk factors can lower the impact of information security incidents. But what are the elements within these disclosures that help investors understand it? Okay. So in order to answer these questions, as a first step, we just mentioned that we try to do the content analysis and try to extract the key phrases that within these disclosures. Okay, and we want to do the key phrases analysis as a first step. Then we try to look at upper level, that is, we want to look at the disclosure level. So we run the cluster analysis using text mining techniques. Then we have a classification model, and we try to classify whether this disclosure is from the breach firm or is from the non-breach firm. Okay, so the key phrases analysis, we have these key phrases that are extracted from our disclosures, starting from the break-in and denial of service attacks, or it's just a general breach statement. Okay, or maybe it's security transmission, system failure, interruption or disruption, or virus, worms, or unauthorized access. Okay, these are the key phrases that we extract from these risk factors. And we found out that the break-in, interestingly, is significantly and positively correlated with the cumulative abnormal return. So that means if the number of this break-in, this statement, or these phrases showed up in the disclosure, as the number goes up, that means you are telling the investors that we have a severe hole, or we have a breach, we have a weakness in our system. So that means it actually worse the impact of these incidents. Okay, but for system failure, interruption, or disruption, this kind of statement, as the number of this kind of statement increases, we still see that there's a mitigation effect. Okay, but this is only at the phrases level. So we track the phrases, and we try to find out the relationship between these key phrases and the stock price reactions to incidents. Okay, but we also want to look at the higher level, that's the disclosure level. So we use the text mining techniques. And text mining, you know that it's being widely used in different fields. For example, fraud detection, or they can use it to have customer support, drug design. Okay, so they can come up with all kinds of information they need. And the text mining tool we use is the SAS text miner. Okay, it's a package tool, and of course the input is the risk factor disclosures, right? And when we put these disclosures into SAS, the SAS will decompose these disclosures into terms. Okay, that is, it decomposes the sentences into terms, and then it calculates a frequency for each term. Okay, and the frequency is the multiplication of how frequently a term shows up in that document times how frequently a term shows up in the whole data set. So in this case, we are able to do that. We can just find out the terms that do not consistently or repeatedly show up in the whole document. So we can find a better cluster here. Okay, and for the dimension reduction, we use this single value decomposition. And the good thing here is that, for example, we have two disclosures, and both disclosures have the word bank in it. Okay, the bank and the first, so if we read through disclosures, we might think that, okay, the banks are the same, but actually this bank, the word, is in totally different context. Okay, the bank in the first disclosure is about river bank, but the second one is about commercial banks. So they are in totally different contexts, so we need an approach to differentiate this then. Okay, so as we can get the dimension reducted disclosures, we can do the cluster analysis. There are two approaches. One is hierarchical, and one is expectation maximization. Okay, and since our data is not anything about hierarchical, so we just use the expectation from maximization. And this methodology basically is as follows. That is, if we allocate, or we will try to group a term into a certain cluster, we try to maximize the probability that the term will belong to that cluster. Okay, so we can find out that whether this term actually belongs to a certain cluster. Okay, and our result looks like the following. Okay, we have different resolutions. That means we try to have a robustness check the reduced dimensions. Okay, so we have a high dimension that we use almost 99% of the dimension we have in the original data set, and we have the median dimension and we have a low dimension. That is, we reduce 2/3 of the dimensions. Okay, so we have different granularity of this information, and as we can see that there's some negative impacts. The term, for example, the failure harm shows up in this disclosure, and we also have the subjects that might be affected. Okay, and this one is that we also do a trend analysis and see how these disclosures change across time starting from 1996 or 1997. Okay, so we have the 2-year group starting from 1997 to 2006. Okay, and as you can see that we have this failure, server, harm, interruption. Okay, and the subject that might be affected, say reputation, customer, data, operating results. And interestingly, we do this approach for the bridge firm and the control firm. Okay, and for the control firm, there are more action terms. Okay, they talk about more about performance, they talk about more about the operating results, but not for these bridge firms. Okay, in order to explain what these terms in the cluster means, we have this conceptual link. Okay, this one, bridge, is a term that showed up in our cluster. Okay, and there are many other terms showed up in our cluster. For example, attack. When we see this concept link for attack, we see that the concept, concept attack always co-occurred with denial in the paragraphs. Okay, so this concept link helps us to understand what are the phrases that generally co-occurred with the term that showed up in our cluster. So we can have a better feeling about what are the sentences or what are the paragraphs are about. Okay, so for example here, the bridge here, it generally co-occur with delivering services or collecting payments, security breaches, or fraudulent credit card transmission, or secure transmission. Okay, confidential information. So it seems that for the breach companies, when they talk about the term breach, this term also co-occurs with some kind of confidentiality type of incidents, right? So, but this is from the disclosures right before the incident. But what happens after the incidents? As you can see that the breach do not co-occur with other terms that frequently. So here the breach is about security breach, it's about liability, it's about security measures. So in this case, after the company experiences some kind of information security risks, we found out that the term breach is more like a general term. Okay, just talk about the breach instead of if it links to other confidentiality types stuff. So it seems that the breach companies try to provide more specific disclosures to the public after the incidents. Okay, but on the other hand, we do the same thing for the control group. We found out that for the control group, they are still doing that general statements and more diversified risk factors. Okay, so the next part is that how can we find if we try to classify the disclosures into the breach company and non-breach company? So we can have an idea what's the differences between these two, right? Here we already have the key phrases analysis. We know that some keywords might relate to the cumulative abnormal return, that is stock price reactions. And we also know that the companies change their disclosure policy to more specific risk factors after the incidents. Okay, so the next step is that what's the difference between the breach company and the controlled company? Okay, so we build a classification model. Okay, the classification model is built as follows. We take all the disclosures before the incidents. Okay, so we have the experiment group, the breach companies, and the control companies. And we use these disclosures to train the model. Okay, we use 80% of the data to train the model. That's 64 documents. And then we validate it and we test it. Okay, and the validation results show that the model can work accurately 75% of the time. Okay, that is three-fourths of the time the model can correctly predict or correctly classify a disclosure into the breach firm or non-breach firm. Okay, and based on this result, we use this model and apply this model to the disclosures after the incident and see what happens. And we see that the prediction or the accuracy rate dropped 68%. Okay, then we try to have a robustness test on this result. So we keep adding on the disclosures about different control companies. For example, we try to find out the disclosures for the companies with different sizes in different industries that have not been breached, and that's not in our sample. And we find out that this classification accuracy drops to 50%. Okay, so the idea is that the companies learn from these incidents and they responded to it. Okay, they disclose more specific risk factors to the public. Okay, and they also increases their level of disclosure. They will try to add more disclosures to their financial reports. And the classification result explains why the policy changes is different from the breach company to the non-breach company. Okay, the idea is as follows. If I know that I'm the breach company, I know that I've been breached. So I try to be more specific to that breach point. For example, I have been attacked by viruses. So I try to explain more about the viruses, but at the same time, I try to add more disclosures just in case that I might be attacked in the future. So because in this case, the disclosure cost is lower than the benefit I can get. Because if in the future, I'm going to have this denial of service attack, the stock price reactions will be smaller, right, if I told the investors in advance. Okay, but this is not the case for the control group. So we also see that there's a shift of these incident types. Okay, and the conclusion is that we found out that the disclosures of information security risk factors in financial reports can help investors understand what's going on and what's the uncertainty a company is facing. Okay, and this expectation formulation can help them to mitigate the stock price reactions to incidents. Okay, and more importantly, when managers trying to assess their risk they are facing, or they try to assess their internal controls, they can at the same time evaluate what kind of risk factors they are facing. Okay, so they can decide what is the best way they can convey these risk factors to their investors. Okay, so just in case they are facing this kind of incidents in the future, the stock price reaction won't be that huge. Okay, and the text mining result demonstrate very interesting patterns, and we're still working on it. Okay, the patterns we found out is that, of course, we can see that there's a negative impact. The words are negative, and we see that they disclose the subjects that might be affected. Okay, and there's a change from availability type, for example, denial of service attack, or integrity type, for example, the virus attack, to confidentiality type incidents. And companies are more willing to disclose more things or more risk factors about confidentiality type incidents, just because we argue that because the direct or indirect impacts of this kind of incidents is much more larger than just a denial of service attack or virus attack. Okay, and the finding also, in fact, the text mining result also show that why there is a difference between the control group and the breach companies. So the thing we are working on is that we try to dig further, and we want to understand what caused these kind of differences. Okay, the breach company want to pretend that they're a control group, or they just want to keep adding all the possible risk factors they might face in the future. Okay, that's our next step. And that's all my presentation. And questions or comments? Anything? Yes. Could you repeat your question again? I cannot hear you. Yes. Yes. From previous researches, they found out that companies are not that willing to disclose this kind of information to the public because the competitors might take advantage of it, or the hackers might use that. We know that there's a breach in your system, right? So companies are not that willing to disclose this kind of information. So your question is that whether the firms are willing to disclose this certain key phrases in their disclosures. So, and actually this is what we want to investigate in our paper, is that we want to investigate what kind of information the companies is willing to disclose to the public, given all these possible threats that might be used by these competitors or by hackers, right? And we want to see that what's the relationship between these disclosures and incidents. And also we'll try to find out that what are the benefit and cost trade-off that cause these disclosures to be announced to the public. Any other questions? No? Okay, then thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or just talk to me after the talk. Okay, thank you.